Stop trying to outthink your overthinking. Cognitive reframing and journaling aren't working because overthinking isn't a thinking problem, it's a nervous system loop. And your body is just stuck in this state of like threat detection, and your mind is simply just reading the alerts as it comes up. I'm Sushmita, but you can call me Sushi, and I'm going to show you how to shut off those 50 tabs that are open in your mind right now by retraining your nervous system, not by fighting your thoughts. You see, you aren't broken, you're just working with the wrong layer. And right now, if I asked you, just for 30 seconds, to hold your attention on just one thing. It could be the sound of your breath, it could be my voice, it could be anything without getting lost in thought or being distracted by something else. Could you do it? Most people know they can't do it. And some people don't even notice that they can't hold their attention anymore. It's almost like the background noise has become so constant that it's like white noise in the background that you don't even pay attention to. And this is why all of the pop psychology, cognitive reframing hacks fail. Because you're being told to challenge your thoughts and reframe them when you can't even catch them in the first place. And I use this analogy a lot, and I'm going to use it again because it's one of my favorite ones, is that it's almost like catching your thoughts and holding your thoughts. It's like taking a beach ball and you're trying to hold it underwater. You can push it down, you can journal about it, you can challenge it, you can reframe it, you can philosophize about it. But the moment you stop pushing, it's going to pop back up to the surface. And the harder you push, the more forcefully it's going to bubble back up to the surface. Because the problem isn't the ball, the problem isn't that it's in water, the problem isn't even anything else except that you think that pushing it down is the only move that you can make. In yoga philosophy, this mental chatter, this stuff that drives you crazy, we call them Vrittis. These are basically the mental fluctuations, and they are mind waves. And overthinking isn't just one thing that's going wrong. It's usually 3 specific Vrittis that are all trying to ambush you literally out of nowhere. The first one is viparyaya, or misconception. Now, something that isn't really true, but the story that's running in your head makes it out to be like it's a hard fact. If I don't solve this thing tonight, then something terrible is going to happen and everything is going to go wrong. You don't question it because it feels like it's more than a thought. It feels like it's a reality. It feels so true, right? And the second thing, the second of the vrittis, is vikalpa, or imagination. Imagination with nothing real behind it to anchor it into truth. This is where you begin to think of the worst case scenario. You start catastrophizing about the things that haven't happened, that may happen, and like you start to think of all these scenarios. And it feels real because your body doesn't really know the difference, and your nervous system is constantly responding to these imagined scenarios and imagined threats in the same way that it responds to real threats. And the third, the final vritti, this one hits the high achievers among us the hardest, is smritayah, or memory. And it's this mistake that you made like 3 years ago that you still beat yourself on about, and it's like almost as if it's still happening right now, because your brain doesn't file it away as like something that's in the past. It just keeps replaying it as if it's happening right now, and that is deepening the groove or the samskara. Now, you might be wondering, like, why does my body respond to it as if it's like real, as if it's happening right now? Basically, your brain has something called the default mode network. It's the circuit that fires up whenever you're at rest. Rest meaning you're not actually working. You start thinking about the past or the future, you start ruminating, you start thinking about yourself in a certain way. And overthinkers, we have this chronically overactive default mode network. And so in yoga, these mental grooves, these are grooves of repetition. These are known as samskaras. And essentially, it's that same worry loop. It's that same thing that you keep thinking about. That is deepening this neural pathway. And your body considers it to be real in the way that, something that's imagined is no longer imagined. It's real to your body. So what actually works? There's 4 things. Not 4 tips, but 4 structural interventions from the Ashtanga tradition that work at the body layer, because actually that's where the problem truly lives. The first layer is the fixed sequence. Now in Ashtanga, we do the same exact postures in the same exact order to the same exact breath count every single time. When I first started practicing, I was like, that is so boring. Like, why don't these Ashtangis kind of mix it up and do something new? Because you see, your overthinking brain, it absolutely loves novelty. It loves new problems. It loves new scenarios. It loves new things to worry about. And so that is almost like fuel for your default mode network. A fixed sequence, it starves it. When your body knows exactly what's coming next, there's nothing for the overthinking mind to grasp onto. A friend of mine actually described watching his young daughter through this window, and she was practicing inside the studio. And he said, she was just completely lost in the moment of the dance. She was just like so in her element. And then she noticed her father through the window, that her father was waiting outside. And in that moment, it's almost like she became aware that she was being observed, and everything changed. The dance became a performance. She like almost stiffened a little bit, and she lost that pure flow that she was in when she wasn't feeling watched. And overthinking happens in the context of a yoga class when you're trying to follow a teacher, when you're trying to mimic what the teacher is doing, and it becomes difficult and you feel like you're performing. But in a Mysore room, the way we practice in Ashtanga, you are literally in your own rhythm. You're doing your own dance. But when you're trying to like follow along some complicated vinyasa sequence, you collapse into this role of the performer because that observer part of you steps in and starts judging you about your form, how you look, etc. So a fixed sequence removes that pressure completely. There is nothing to perform, no one to copy, like you're just doing. And the second layer is the Tristhana. Now, this is really important because this is the heart of the Ashtanga practice. This is the posture, the breath, and the Drishti, which is your focal point. And they all work as one system. And it matters for us overthinkers because our brains cannot hold a demanding posture, regulate the breath, and also like think about that rumination loop that we've been mulling over for the last few days. You cannot do it because you literally don't have the bandwidth. You try this, okay? Try holding Utthita Hasta Padangushtasana, which is a very challenging standing balance, and thinking about some email. Because it's very demanding. And in that demand, there's also relief. Not because you reframe that email as like something that shouldn't trigger your nervous system or you said some words to yourself. It's literally that you got this break from running that loop for 60 minutes on the mat. And then the final thing, the final layer is Abhyasa and Vairagya. Actually, I said there's 4, right? Okay, layer 3. There's 2, Abhyasa and Vairagya. Abhyasa means consistent effort, and Vairagya just means non-attachment to the effort. And so you're doing the effort, but you're also not grasping onto the effort. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because the more you try to stop overthinking, it's almost like you're fueling the overthinking. So the effort to suppress a thought is a thought. And so it's almost this frustration that comes up when you're like, it's not working, I'm not meditating right. That is what you need to use Vairagya, or this relationship to letting go that actually changes the way that you practice. It's almost like, okay, I see a thought, I'm practicing, it's arisen, and I can do this and I can let it go. The way that you do this on the mat, it's almost like you do this 100 million times in every Chaturanga, and this is where you can translate that same skill of doing something, practicing, but also letting go, not getting attached to it. That's what translates into your real life. You couldn't hold on to like the sound of a bird that's chirping, right? Because it came and it went. It made no sense to you. All your worries, all your thoughts, all the things that matter so much to you, in 5 years' time, not so much, right? The same way, we have this last layer. I don't want to miss all 4 layers. It's Pratyahara. It's this ability to be inwardly focused. For our whole lives, we've been trained to almost get validation from outside, and we've switched, or we've traded this introception, this ability to sense inward, for extroception, because we have vigilance for everything around us. We want validation, we want to be, we want to make sure everything is safe. We just look outside instead of inside. And Pratyahara is almost like a sensory gatekeeping. It's done even before movement is done because we want to turn the attention inwards. It's not that you're expected to meditate. You're literally just taking a few moments to close all of those little tabs before you start to practice. When I was studying with Sharathji in Mysore in India, it was this humid shala, blue floors, and I remember it was like, oh my gosh, so hot. And I finished the practice and we would go to a different section for our Shavasana. And I hated Shavasana because I was like, why are we being punished? Why am I sitting in this pool of my own sweat doing this thing that I don't want to do? And one morning, my teacher came up to me and he barely spoke, by the way. This man mostly communicated in like hand movements, eyebrow gestures, and a few grunts here and there. And he came to me and he said, Sushmita, thinking, 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 thinking. Where is your attention? And then I was like, oh my gosh, can he read my thoughts? Like, does he know what I'm thinking? And I didn't understand it for years, but now that he's no more, I think I know what he meant. What he meant was that the mind is not the enemy. It's where your attention goes. The problem isn't the thoughts. It's almost that the way that your attention keeps feeding them, that is the problem. And so each time you engage with a vritti, each time you try to reframe it or push it away, you're still sending it attention. You're deepening the samskara. And so we covered a lot today, the 3 vrittis that are driving your overthinking, why this kind of cognitive reframing keeps failing you in the moment when you actually need it, and what to do with this 4-layer Ashtanga framework that I just shared. This will really help you rewire it on a structural level without ever having to like hustle with these thoughts. And the practice really isn't about emptying your mind. It's about starving the loop of thoughts. And so when a thought arises, you notice it, you return, and then you just get back to your day. And that is the whole thing. That is like the practice. It's not 10 years away of like doing Ashtanga. It's available to you right here, right now. If you notice the space that's left behind after any thought and just stay in it for a little bit longer, I promise you that will shift things for you. If something that I said today somehow landed and you recognized like, oh wait, I need to be looking at this deeper, I've built a special quiz for you. This will help you kind of figure out which of your vrittis is actually affecting you. It'll also give you the exact like approach and what to do with that diagnosis. The link is in the description below. It takes like 2 minutes, so go ahead and do that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and share this with a friend, by the way. I make these videos every week, so make sure you share this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.